I know that ain't who I think it is.
You know, this revolution is filled with so many ironies, really. First, you tell us that it is manly to keep your word, right? If you are a man, you keep your word. And now all of the black people in this country are demanding, and even the black people in the whole world are demanding, is that you keep your word. You told us we were free. Well, then show us that we're free. You told us that there is justice, equality for all in this country. Well, then stick to your word and let us see the justice and equality for all. Or else admit to us that you're not a man, you're a worm, you're afraid of us, you're afraid to give us equal stand. You're afraid that if you give us equal ground, that we will match you and we will override you.
Can kill all the black folks you want, baby.
I know that ain't who I think it is.
I feel the freedom of black folks. It's coming. We're going to get it. We fought every one of your damn lousy wars, baby, and you give us nothing. Now the war is going to be here, but we're going to be free. Now you kill you want to, but we kill too.
Y'all want to see a dead body?
In my mind.
I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No.
I had to put that out there. I had to put that out there because it's just necessary. Where we are right now, it's just necessary. Good evening. It is Monday night. If you're checking this out on the live, I appreciate anybody who checks it out on the live. If you're checking out Freedman Media on a playback, you are just as welcome. Get ready to sit back for at least 60 minutes. I think I'm going to be in here for at least 60 minutes. I got a lot of stuff to cover, and I want to make sure I walk it down slow because I believe people are conflating and confusing ownership and entrepreneurship. It's easy to do. I get it. Appreciate you, Free. Please share this video, share this message, just because there's probably people you know who think they are entrepreneurs and they are owners. And then there are people that you probably know who think they just own a business, but they are entrepreneurs. Some people conflate and confuse the two. So I want to break this down, because if we're going to move forward out here, we've got to know the difference. Some people are business owners, and then other people are entrepreneurs. And it's not to discredit one or the other, but you just don't want to be caught thinking you're one and you're the other. And I'll break that down, how beneficial it is to know and have a grasp as to what you are. So that's just the thumb there. But yeah, we just want to get into some things here, because as I talk about repair for American freedmen, Black Americans, Native Black Americans, one of the first ways to financial security for your family, generational wealth, is home ownership. And another means is owning a business, a family business, a business that benefits not only the person who works directly in the business, but the whole family. And there's businesses out there where whole families work in them. I love to see when the kids are working with the parents, and then you have extended family working in. That lets you know they're keeping that dollar inside. It's a beautiful thing. Everybody can't do that, and there's documentation out there that, 95% of the Black American owned businesses have 3 or less employees. That's 3 real employees. 95% of the Black owned businesses in America, Black Americans, have less than 3 employees, which basically means it's a mom and a pop. And that's all it ever gets to. And there's nothing wrong with mom and pops, but if you've only got 3 or less people, how much production are you really putting out as a company? And I'm not here to shit on anybody's production levels or how many people they hold on payroll, but this is why I think that ownership and entrepreneurship are conflated and confused. So we are going to get right into it, because I think we need to just kind of break some things down as far as looking at the definition, the pure definition of ownership. When you think of owner, a person who owns something, possessor, holder, to give an example of a homeowner, a freeholder, a landlord, a landlady, a keeper. You own something, it's yours. And just because you own something doesn't necessarily mean it is a business. It could be a homeowner. It could be, you could actually own something that you're not going to try to profit off of. And, like your car, you own your car, or a lot of people have leases nowadays, but when you own a vehicle, you don't necessarily make money off of your vehicle. So it's not a business, but it doesn't take away your ownership or ability to own something. People get hooked into owning and ownership and it being a business. And only way you can really look at a vehicle as a business, if you do like Uber or you do DoorDash, Grubhub, whatever, if that is your business, then your vehicle you do own, that's part of your business. So that's a different type of thing. But if you just possess something, you just own something, and you're not trying to profit off of it, it is not a business. So when people say that they own something, doesn't necessarily mean that they're an entrepreneur. And I've heard people call other people entrepreneurs, and they're like, what are you talking about? They have a regular job. They have a regular JO. They're an owner of their house. Now, if they're renting out part of their house, they're a landlord. Now that's a business. So you just don't want to confuse the two. And let's skip right to entrepreneur, because this is where, like I said, I believe that things get confused between owners and entrepreneurs. So when you look at entrepreneur, that is a person who organizes and operates a business or businesses taking on greater than normal financial risk in order to do so. So when you are an entrepreneur, sometimes you own one or multiple businesses. And that's just what you do. You are a businessman. You are a businesswoman. You are a business person. You are a speculator. They use the word tycoon here, magnate, dealer, trader, merchant. You are a middleman. You are a promoter, an impresario, intermediary, a wheeler and dealer, mogul, big shot, big wig. They use all these synonyms here, but a lot of people just look at an entrepreneur as a business person. Businessman, businesswoman. You know, when you start talking about dealers and traders and merchants and things like that, that kind of goes into what types of businesses you may be a part of. But as an entrepreneur, you are generally at more of a risk than just a standard business owner, because that might be all you do with that one business. That's all you have. And that's your risk. Whereas if you're an entrepreneur, you may have several businesses that do the same thing. Maybe you're a franchisee, like a Subway, something like that. You know, and you've got 4 or 5 of them. You're an entrepreneur. You're not just a business owner. You are an entrepreneur. You have multiple businesses and you have a ridiculous financial risk. And if those businesses fail, you fail. Subway's not going to fail because they'll just find somebody else to take over those franchises. But if those businesses don't succeed, you're out and Subway moves on. But understanding the difference between the two, I think, can help with some people's confusion and making it hopefully easier for people to understand that they can own a business or they can be an entrepreneur. I think the risk factor is what scares folks mostly about being entrepreneurs, being business owners. Some people just don't want to take those risks. They'll take whatever they can get off of a paycheck, which there's nothing wrong with that, because owning a business is no hoe. Owning a business is no hoe. I've done it for years, off and on, since I was 21. And that's something you don't lose. And as I grew, even though I went and I worked for many people, I've always looked at myself as an entrepreneur, because even when I did not own a business, I was always seeking out the opportunity to make that dollar on my own. There's nothing wrong with working for someone, but when you can do things outside of your regular JO, that is something. And sometimes I've used the JO that I've had to actually be a part of my customer base, clientele, your warm market. You see people 5-6 days a week at your workhouse. Why not put those people in your wheel if you've got a product that they could use? That helps you become an entrepreneur. That's the easiest people to talk to are the people that you talk to every single day. Every single day. But as business owners, you don't have any control who comes in your storefront, who you've got to seek out for business. But if you have a job, you've got a business that you are running, the people that you need to talk to first and foremost are the people that you work around every single day. When I was in the car business and, working at a decent sized store, I might talk to like 7-8 salespeople, a few service people. You got administration. Hell, I could run businesses through there and make a nice little living just off of the people that I worked with. Even though I was there to sell cars, there was nothing wrong with me making that side hustle money with whatever I was doing at the time with my coworkers. A lot of people don't get that and get why people do that, but that is a necessity if you're really trying to get ahead. A paycheck is not meant for you to actually get ahead. It's meant to keep you coming back for the next paycheck. And that's why I will never shit on anybody for working for someone, but I've never known a job that someone gives someone else and says, this job is going to make you rich. This salaried paycheck is going to make you rich, because that's not what it's meant for. Your salary paycheck and that other person's salary paycheck and those other people's salary paychecks helps the person who owns the company get rich or get wealthy. But you getting a paycheck, it is not designed for you to become rich. If you become rich working that job, you're not going to come back. They need to pay you enough to keep you coming back and pay you enough to keep you from leaving. And sometimes jobs can't pay you enough to keep you from leaving. Sometimes jobs just can't do that. They can't hold you. And when they can't hold you, that means you got to move on. But as we venture deeper into this 21st century, and we venture into AI, artificial intelligence, and we work our way to a cashless society, people are really going to have to decide if they want to put an iron in the fire as far as a business outside of their job, or look at what their job's bringing in and maybe get into a business that might be more beneficial and more financially fruitful for their family, or they may not. They may just hold pat and do nothing, and hopefully their job is not taken over with artificial intelligence to the point where they're not needed anymore. Do my eyes deceive you, Shannon? What? Descendant Lair, how you doing? How are you doing? But I'm looking at folks who confuse and conflate ownership and entrepreneurship. And I think when you get them confused, you lose a step. Anytime you are on a mission, and you conflate or confuse something, you lose a step, because now you're focused on what's not right, what you've put together, and it's probably a mistake, what you've confused. Now you've got to deal with that versus dealing with the business at hand. And the reason I knew I became an entrepreneur and I just wasn't somebody who owned businesses, because I was always seeking to make that deal. You know, and they have a term called serial entrepreneur. And that's what I've considered myself for most of my adult life, because I've definitely loved running a business or businesses more than I've liked working for someone who's running a business. And it's not that I'm not coachable, you can't work with me or whatever, because people who I've worked for, they'll all tell you the same thing. I might have been an asshole, but I made them money. Or I might have not been an asshole. I might have been a great employee there. But the one thing that hurt me working for other businesses out here was owning my own business at such a young age. Had I not been fortunate enough to own my own business at such a young age, signing a contract at 21 years old and fully taking it over at 22, it really didn't sink in until years later that I was that young. But I looked at business totally different from anything that I involved myself in, whether it had been working for myself or working for another company. I looked at things differently because I had that experience. And that's why I look at things differently now. It's why I don't think like a lot of people out here think when they think about business. I don't look at the first level. I don't look at the second level. I look at how big this thing can be. I look at how big this thing can be. That's the first thing that I look at. If I'm going to look at the minimalization of something, there's no point in me getting involved in it. I need to look at how much we can maximize this thing. How do we make this thing blow? And there's people out there who really have a hard time stretching that. And when you think about owners, sometimes they never really get past that. When you own something, it belongs to you. And sometimes you never lose that. You never lose that. You never lose that feeling you are an owner. But see, with me in owning a business, I didn't look at it as mine. I looked at it as whoever I was selling the product to, they were my partners. People who worked with me, they were my partners. Production is everything. If you're not producing, you're not making any money. So if I can have a person do exactly what I can do, and then I can teach that person how to do it, and then they can go teach somebody else. Now I got 3 people doing the same thing. Now we're having 3 times the production. And if you look at any big industry, that's all it is training individuals to do what you created. Any type of manufacturing business, one person knew everything. And then they had to branch out and train other people to do the manufacturing. And then to really get the production up, they had to hire people to do the production. And that's how you get big. But if you just thinking about this company, like we just survive and you'll never, ever grow. And you definitely won't be able to elevate yourself to becoming an entrepreneur, because that's what owning a business should bloom into. It should bloom into full-blown entrepreneurship. It absolutely should. And that's where you're not only setting goals for yourself, but you're setting goals for your team. You're setting goals for your business. You're looking at the competition. You're trying to figure out how you can get some of that market share. You're trying to figure out who's honing in on your market share. How can you beat that? And that's how you get to a level of sustainability, to making sure whatever you're doing and the other person is doing the exact same thing, you're doing it better. You never stay the same in business. You either get better or you get worse. And what helps you get better is how motivated are you? How confident are you? How passionate are you in your business? Do you operate with high integrity? Are you honest? Is your business built to grow? And is your business or businesses the top priority in your life? Now, I know some people are going to disagree with that because they're going to say, no, your family should be your top priority in your life. Where you're absolutely right. But if you can't feed your family, what do you have? So your business is your family. Your business is your family. It's a relative, and you've got to treat it like a baby. You've literally got to treat your business like a baby. And if you don't treat it like a baby, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be successful. So I look at things the way they were 30 plus years ago when I first started running businesses, the way they are now, what you have to do to get a business going now versus what you had to do to get a business going back then, or take over a business or be a part. It's totally different. I mean, with what we've just encountered over these last few years, it's turned business infrastructures upside down to where you're no longer just concerned about people coming to your establishment. It's how fast you can actually get things out to people with curbside service or delivery service. All types of things have happened over the last few years, and the businesses who were able to survive and move into curbside or delivery status without harming their business have benefited greatly. the businesses who were not able to do so, they suffered or they languished. I'm glad the message is hitting. That's the only reason I do things like this, because they come to me, and I know if they come to me, other people have to be thinking maybe not exactly what I'm thinking, but it's good for me to always be able to put stuff in the atmosphere. And I appreciate you, Lair. It's good for me to be able to put things in the atmosphere that I know that are beneficial, because I don't always have to be pointing the finger at one specific thing. Sometimes I can put out a global message that I know that will help people, but it's not always just about one instance, because some people might be thinking about getting a business. They might not even be business owners right now. They might be thinking about going in business for themselves, or they may be thinking about investing into a business group that there's several businesses. And it's a big jump. It's a huge jump to go from the workforce into owning your own business, because you've got to have that get up and go. If you don't go out and sell, you don't eat. And that's whatever product it is. That product's got to get into somebody else's hands for you to get some money, for you to be able to feed your family. So if you are on the front line between you and your client base, you can't get in your own way. And there's so many people that get in their own way as business owners. An entrepreneur generally doesn't get in their own way, but what they'll do is they'll second guess themselves on things, and that can get in their own. But an entrepreneur is generally that person who's always willing to take that risk, because if they think it's going to benefit their business positively, they're always going to be able to come out there and take that risk. They're not going to be afraid to step out on faith, because you got to have faith. You got to have faith. But I've looked at so many opportunities in my life, and I've passed some up. I've got involved with some. Regrets on both sides. Understanding. It might have not been something that I wanted to do at first, and then I wanted to do later. But then again, the way I always look at it, if I didn't do it, if I didn't take advantage of it, I can't regret. I can't hate. None of that. I can't put myself in that frame where I regret not pulling the trigger on something, because I know the risk of getting involved in a business. And if that business pops and I didn't get involved in it, then, I'd say, it just wasn't meant for me. But if I get involved with something and it's not as successful as I forecasted, I have to say the same thing. This wasn't meant for me. But I am not one of those people that thinks one bad opportunity will turn me from wanting to own my own business or businesses. And that's really part of being an entrepreneur too. You really don't get rid of an entrepreneur spirit. If you have an entrepreneur spirit, you don't get rid of that. That doesn't go away. It might be suppressed. And I had mine suppressed for years. I mean, when my main focus had to be basically just putting food on the table, I had to give up a lot of things because of time and monies that I wouldn't have to invest, and just make sure that I was providing for my kids and working the JO to the best of my capabilities. And I never felt bad, but I was always yearning and looking for that opportunity. And you be in relationships, and sometimes the woman doesn't understand because she sees what you've got coming in. So that's pretty good. That's decent. Yeah, but you can do better. And I've always known that I can do better. But family does get in the way sometimes of you being able to either run a business or really be an entrepreneur, to really go out there and get it. Take those chances. Family does get in the way. That's not something that I can downplay here, because I know that if I didn't have the family dynamics that I've had over the last, 26, 27 years, I would have did a whole lot of different things. Absolutely. I would have probably did a lot more stuff outside of the state of Michigan. You know, there's a big land outside of the state of Michigan that's way more profitable. You are kind of handcuffed in a lot of ways in the state of Michigan. And I'm not just throwing it on being a black man, you know, I'm not just throwing it on the climate of the way things have changed in this state. But I know that other states are very, very profitable. And if I would have just been able to just go lay there and set up shop and not have to worry and concern myself with family being back here, things would have probably been different over the last almost 30 years. But they're not. And I'm not crying about it because it is what it is. What you say there, Lair? Can't even explain the timing of your message with taking a big jump recently into starting a business for myself. So ready, nervous, and excited for myself and anyone else taking the leap. Congratulations. Congratulations. Anybody that walks into business ownership, they need to be confident. They need to understand there's going to be bumps. There's going to be bruises. And they need to understand there's no quit. There's no turning back, you know, because the business will let you know when it's time to go. I've let go on a couple of situations where I shouldn't have let go as soon. But when you feel like there's no support, when you have no support, you'll let go a lot faster than if it's just you thinking on you. If it's just you thinking on you, you'll hold on tighter, longer, and hopefully you'll persevere. I know personally I let things go specifically because of my family. I just didn't want to deal with the strife that was coming from my family. And I had something else going on. So I was just like, okay, I'll do this. And I had to suppress my entrepreneurial spirit. But for you, Lair, you need to just understand it is a leap to go from one space to the next. It is a leap. And there's going to be so many challenges that will make you second guess things. They may not come immediately. They could come down the road. But you have to understand you made the choice for a reason. And there's absolutely no reason you stop just because you hit a speed bump. Or in my case, a pothole. Because I'm in Michigan. We got potholes. Getting into business now, people need to understand what we're heading into with this digital currency. Digital currency is going to be something that you need to be so far ahead of. I can't stand going into businesses that are so antiquated that they, some businesses just don't like taking plastic. I get it. There's a lot of fraud out here. I get it. But we're heading to a cashless society, whether people want to deal with it or not in their business. If they don't want to deal with it, then they won't be running businesses. You're going to be cashless regardless. We've got this situation with FedNow coming, and they're trying to get some things jumped off by July. And if they're able to get FedNow up and going by July, and I don't know how many states it'll be active in, how they're going to work it out, but if they're able to get this up and going, probably by the presidential election in 2024, FedNow could be in half the country. And how beneficial is it going to be for folks? I don't know. I can't forecast. I can definitely tell you that the bottom half of the population could be negatively affected just because I believe the way they're going to set up payments and things like that, it's going to be on I see availability, so I'm taking it. And people aren't going to be able to float dollars the way they were able to float dollars in the past. Hell, I love the check age, and I came along in it at the end of it. We just started using debit cards in our adult life, but I came along in that check age where you could float a check. I loved floating a check. I love floating a check, but there ain't no more floating a check. When you put that card in there, if that money ain't in the bank, you ain't getting them products. Yeah, you ain't getting them. Just like that lady that $1,000 worth of stuff in Target a couple of days ago when I streamed that. Look, that cash register said it needed 1,000. Her card said that she didn't have 1,000. She didn't get nothing but arrested because it was her Rosa Parks moment, dude. Ooh, I can't stand. This is my Rosa Parks moment, dude. Just the fact that she used reparations and that whole thing just threw me all the way off. That's the only reason it even made its way up on the stream, because of her ignorance. People out here talking about getting reparations from Target just because they short on the bag. Don't put so much in your card if you don't have the money. Target don't know you know reparations. What's wrong with you? But this right here, this FedNow, the FedNow instant payment structure is going to pull money from your account when something is due. Light bill, gas bill, phone bill, rent, this, that, and the other, car note, car insurance. When it's due, FedNow will be able to pull that money from your account. Instant payments, bam. Right there. And will companies give you the flexibility that they give you now, like with payment arrangements and things like that? Doing part of the payment today, partial payments. Will it give you that access, or will FedNow, because see, they ain't really broke a lot of that down. They haven't been real open, real candid with this. And that's why, I'm trying to bring it out as much as I find out. And the way I'm seeing it, this could be a hostile takeover for people's monies. And for companies who are smaller, they're going to have to jump into a system like this, because this is going to link up all the financial institutions. So you're instantly obviously going to have to take plastic, and you're going to have to get your business linked into the FedNow system. So truthfully, the government will be able to tell exactly how much money your business is making. Once you get linked up in the FedNow system, there ain't going to be no more hiding money. There ain't going to be no two sets of books. No. Ain't going to be no two sets of books. When you make it, the government sees you made it, and it's documented at that point. That's what's popping there. So we've just really got to stay up on it, And the one thing that I've tried to always break down to people, if you consider running a business, you've got to be looking at what you're already doing and saying, okay, it's not enough. Because what you're doing right now, you've got a salary. You work for somebody and you have a salary. There's absolutely nothing wrong with having a salaried position, right? Nothing wrong with having a salaried position. But some people that have salaries, they don't feel like they are getting their value. And that's where it gets confusing. And people try to conflate the two. See, people conflate salaries and values, and that is different. Salaries and your value is different. So let's just look at salary really briefly. I know everybody knows what salary is, but let's just break salary down. A fixed regular payment, typically paid on a monthly or bi-weekly basis, but often expressed as an annual sum, made by an employer to an employee, especially a professional or white-collar worker. He received a salary of $29,000. I don't know when they made that, because that's just way too low. Similar pay, earnings, remuneration, fees, emoluments, never heard of that word before, stipend, honorarium, higher wages, wage, gross pay, payment, earned income, take-home pay, net pay. So they just rolled everything about salary in there, because your gross pay and your net pay, that's really what matters. That's what matters. What's your gross pay and what's your net pay? And generally, when they say they're going to give you a salary of something, that's gross. That's before all the minus. And then there's your net pay, and that's what you take home. And people look at their salary and look at what they make, and then when they consider getting into business for themselves, they already are figuring, I can make more than what I'm being paid to work for somebody else if I run my own business. You don't get into business to make the same amount of money that you made working for somebody, because you're really not making the same amount of money that you're working for somebody, because you got to pay all the bills out of that business. So there ain't no point in you starting a business. If you got a $50,000 salary and then you start a business that makes $50,000 a year, you're getting less money than you were getting when you were working for someone. So I would never advise anybody to start a business. And if they had a $50,000 salary and then they get into business and they make $50,000 with their business, that's not the same money. That's just not. Because you got all the minus coming out for taxes and everything, but you got your minus coming out for business costs, and you're going to end up making less money working for yourself than you did working for someone else with the same gross pay, with the same gross receipts. And then when you look at value, see, a lot of people think that their value is better than what their salary could put in. So they think about putting in what their value is based on their business. So what is your value? And your value is an estimation of something's worth, especially one carried out by a professional appraiser. Price, value, evaluation, costing, quotation, estimate. So if you have a monetary value as a professional and they're not paying you that in your salary, like you may figure, like, I'm $100,000 dude, I'm $100,000 lady. You might just figure that, you know what I'm saying? But your job is only paying you $60,000. So you feel like you're leaving $40,000 on the table. Now, if you feel like you should be making $100,000, do you quit that $60,000 job? Or do you go out and try to find a business where you can get closer to that six figure? For me, if I got 60 coming in and there's something out there that I can get 30, 40 out of without quitting this, I'm probably going to do both. But if there's an opportunity where I know that I can make $100,000, I'm not talking about $100,000 gross, I'm talking about $100,000 net. Because there ain't no point in me leaving this job, gaining expenses, because now I lose that 60. And I got to start. Now I got to go from 0 to 100 versus 60 to 100. And people don't understand that. You know, you just don't throw in the towel if you got something good, and especially if it's not going to impede what you're doing as a business. And remember, if you got a job, you're making $60,000 a year and you're working around people, maybe incorporate whatever you're doing with the people that you work with, and you got built-in money coming in. Maybe that first year you don't make $40,000. Maybe that first year you make 20, 25 with your new business. Now you got 80, 85 coming in, and you got your own thing happening. And that can help grow because now you've got some revenue to work with your salary and what you've made off of your new business. Now your value is going up. Your salary ain't gone up, but your value is gone up. And a lot of people don't look at things that same way. So I just like to break things down the way I've seen them and the way I see business going into this 21st century. You've got to be on top of everything digitally. Analog is only going to work when the power is out. Everything else is digital, but you got to be able to count. You got to be able to count. You got to be able to read, write. Can't let all the computers do everything, because then you're going to end up losing money. You still got to be on top of your game with your basics. Because see, a lot of people that can't, and they rely on calculators and computers and things like that, those are the easiest people to get cheated. Easiest people. You know? So being an entrepreneur generally knows their value. They generally knows their value. And an entrepreneur generally will not give you a number for their value. They may have an idea what they think they're worth if they were to be paid by a company, but they're probably not going to spout it. They're probably not going to spout it. As where a business owner, they know how much they've made in the business world. And when they see that money come across as a business owner, if they can pay themselves that same salary, still pay their people, they are a success. They're more successful than they were when they were working for that business. Because if you can pay yourself the same salary you had in the workforce and pay a team and still do your business, you are succeeding. You are well on your way to entrepreneurship. Absolutely. So anybody that's jumping out here and looking to be a business owner that has that entrepreneurial itch, get it. Get it. Don't allow yourself to have these opportunities pass you by and you do nothing about it. You will have nothing but regret. Flat out. You'll have nothing but regret. And I have regretted not getting in some things, but hell, I've regretted about getting in some things too. It's not a system that you can perfect. It's much like the game of golf. Golf is one of the most difficult games. You'll never perfect golf. You'll never, you can be a great golfer, but you're not going, because everything's different every single time. You can play a golf course 10 different times. And you get 10 different lives because with the way the blades of grass are laying. It's not going to be perfect every single time. It could be similar, but it's never going to be the same. Never going to be the same. Now, if you don't know about golf, you don't understand anything that I just said. So don't worry about that. But, and I wanted to say this. I know he ain't never going to see this stream. But, man, in talking about owning a business and talking about being an entrepreneur, hired help is the most vulnerable collective of people in the world. And I know that Jamie Foxx is a well-paid hired help, but look at what they did to him. This guy suffers a stroke. He suffers a stroke with only a week left to finish filming a movie that he's starring in. And instead of giving him enough time to heal and get back, they went on and produced the rest of the movie without him, hired a stunt double to take his place. Jamie Foxx, a priceless talent, an unforgettable talent, an irreplaceable talent. There ain't nobody out here with Jamie Foxx chops. I mean, Jamie Foxx is a ridiculous performer, and he's played in some roles that you literally believed he was that individual. But even with him, they did not care. They did not care. And this is why I try to tell people, you never, ever put somebody else's business in front of your business. They will replace you and place a want ad in the paper before your funeral. There ain't a business out here that gives a damn about you if you ain't coming to work tomorrow. If they know you done, sprinkle, sprinkle, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Who's next? Pull up. That's all it's about. That's all they care about, because they got to keep production going. You might be valuable to the company, but you are not irreplaceable. You are not irreplaceable. I've always looked at myself as being valuable to whatever company I work for. But the one thing that I always was mindful of, they could replace my ass in a heartbeat. The crazy thing was, if I was good enough, which I was generally good enough, they really couldn't replace me. Hell, I worked at a couple places where they said they had to hire 2 people to replace me just because of my production. And we're talking about sales. When you have people that produce money in sales and you lose one that's a good producer, you might not be able to bring the next guy in and have him produce the same amount of sales. So you got to go get 2 people because you ain't trying to lose no money. You know what your company can do. This dude right here just did it. So they had to fill 2 chairs to keep the same production of what I left. It's happened before, and it happens all day. Now, I don't know what this movie is. I have no idea what he was filming, but I want to see the movie just now, just so I can see if I can pick out the stunt double. Because if they made the mistake of putting in a stunt double and you're going to be able to decisively tell that it was not Jamie Foxx, see, this is why I have a hard time with big industries like this. Hollywood is something else. This is Jamie Foxx. This is Jamie Foxx. The man had a stroke. Let's just halt production and see what's going to happen. Y'all making the movie. You can just stop. Let's just stop in our tracks. See what's going to happen here. I don't know if he had the stroke on set. I don't know exactly what happened. But the fact that they chose, with less than a week of production left, to continue production and put a stunt double in his place lets you know what they feel about Jamie Foxx. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you can be overly good and not get the job. I've been told that I've been overqualified for stuff before. And I'm like, how can I be overqualified for something and I'm asking you for a job? Please tell me this. And a lot of times they will laugh. I'm like, how can I be overqualified? You have a position that I'm seeking. How can I be overqualified? But then I can also read between the lines on a lot of things. I've not been hired for jobs because the person that is sitting in the chair that's hiring me, they already know I'm gunning for their seat. I've got the qualifications to be doing what they're doing. So they know I'm not going to be sitting where I'm sitting for long. I'm going to be looking to move up. And how do I move up? You either move up and elevate the person above you, or you move up and they get rid of the person above you. And that's happened before. I've risen up and had somebody rise out. So you don't ever put your business behind somebody else's business. You take care of your family. You take care of yourself first, because this is what they'll do to you. They will replace you when literally they weren't at a timeline. They had 8 days. What is it? 7, 8 days. I've read it a couple times, a couple different places. Said it like 7, 8 days of production to go. They could have let that time elapse to see what if he was going to be able to bounce back and then make that decision. Nah, they just got to filming. They brought it. They're like, look, man, find a nigga that looks like Jamie. We got to keep this popping. We got to keep this pop. We got to get this in the can. Well, hopefully that brother makes it through to the other side and we see him doing his thing, as he is one of our all-time greats. He is one of our all-time greats in our generation, especially. Ain't too many out here better than Jamie Foxx. I know he does a lot of weird stuff. I know he does, I haven't personally really endorsed that the betting stuff that he does. I don't really like all that gambling stuff, and I don't like that they propping black celebrities up in these gambling commercials and stuff like that, because all that makes black men do is go out and think that they can be like these guys and waste a whole bunch of money. And you're gonna do what you're gonna do. I get it, but I don't see them putting white celebrities in these gambling situations the way they do the black celebrities. Now, I know why they come for our flavor. I know why they come for our seasoning. I get it. I totally get it. But they make us the guinea pigs to all of this stuff. Because once you see a whole bunch of gambling and a whole bunch of people, getting jacked up, losing their houses, losing their cars, losing their families because of gambling, who they going to point the finger at? Jamie Foxx? Who they going to point the finger at? Kevin Garnett? Who they going to point the finger at? Charles Barkley? You're not even going to point it at these gambling companies who plaster everything everywhere. Look at what they just did to these Detroit Lions kids. Said you can't bet in an NFL facility. You can't be on a mobile device betting. All over Ford Field, all over every place you see betting app stuff. That stuff probably comes up on their phones all the time. They're professional athletes. Anything dealing with sports now has got sports gambling. How do you expect them not? They got money hand over fist, and it's all digitized. These guys ain't walking around with stacks. They ain't walking around with stacks. They ain't walking around with duffel bags full of money like they used to. They got money right on the card. It's right. They can bet right on their phone. And even the ones that they said that weren't betting on NFL games, I'm not even sure why they got suspended. Now, the ones that were betting on NFL games, they probably need to be investigated to make sure they just didn't bet on their teams. But if they didn't bet on football, why are you suspending them? They're millionaires. They're gonna do stuff like that. I'd rather see them actually doing stuff like that than buying drugs, buying ass. I mean, they're gonna buy ass anyway. Brother Tyrone, what's good with you? I mean, I just don't understand what's popping with you give somebody the money, you give them the access, and then you tell, oh man, you can't be in our facility and make the bet. Now, he could have went outside and sat in his car and made the bet, but he couldn't be inside the NFL facility. Sound that's a little janky to me. Y'all dealing with 20-something, y'all dealing with kids, man. Dealing with kids with more money than they can count. It don't even make any sense. And there's going to be more. There's going to be so many more people that are going to be directly affected with this. And the crazy thing is, so far, I've only seen black players affected by it. I haven't seen any white players affected by this gambling stuff. I've only seen black players. You can say it's a coincidence, but it's not a coincidence. It definitely is not a coincidence. Okay? I know this to be true. So, breaking down what I broke down tonight, I think if you listen to the message and you understand ownership, entrepreneurship, you can easily not confuse the two. But it's very, very easy to conflate the two. And trying to separate the two is easy once you realize what you've got yourself a hold of. Some people own businesses. Other people are entrepreneurs. There may be some of the same functionalities between the two, but they are not the same things. They are just not. But if you know your value and the people that you're working for aren't paying you what you're worth, starting a business may be a good thing. And not initially quitting what you're already doing, but doing more. And that's where you got to really open up that dialogue with your family, because you're going to start spending more time away from your family. You're going to lose a lot there. That's where a lot of people begin and end with business, I tell you. Because if your family can't deal with your absence, that business is going to stop. That business is not going to be successful, and you'll be back to just working the JO and being undervalued, underpaid, underappreciated, and really just under. Finding out who you are in the space of business ownership in general, entrepreneurship, that's where you need to be. You need to be finding out what are you to the game and what is the game to you. Some people think they want to own a business, but they just don't want the responsibilities. That means then they should not get into business. Some people like the idea of being in business, but they just don't want to put in the work. They don't even want to put in the risk, but they like the idea of being. And when I hear people call themselves entrepreneurs and I see them do absolutely nothing for their business, they're not entrepreneurs. Everybody, no, you're not an entrepreneur. But eventually you could be an entrepreneur, po nigga. And I ain't just talking about melanated folks. I know some white folks that fucked up some businesses that were like generational businesses. And now they entrepreneur niggas. So just hitting 60 minutes. Hopefully this was a good breakdown. I don't need to be in here all night with these things. I got right into it. I spoke my piece. Lair, hopefully whatever I've said, you'll be able to carry to the next level of what you're doing. And once again, congratulations on your business. I'll be definitely anxiously awaiting to find out what you are involved in. I'm glad to see you back in the chat. Glad to see you back in the chat. It's one of the riders from last year before even, I think. I'm going to start getting back more consistent up in here. Really got to start working on building this thing and stretching myself out and being more open. You know, I've been listening to so many different casts and different content creators out here and understanding this landscape. And I guess YouTube is in some sort of situation. And I haven't dug into it, but I'm gonna start looking at a couple of these casts that we're talking about YouTube's value in this industry, because there's so many different broadcasting apps and different things like that. People are looking at doing some different stuff, I guess. I don't know, but I'm gonna check into that. Spend a little bit of my night tonight about doing that. And I thought that was the end all be all at one time, but then I start seeing other people, you know, come up with different things. And I haven't even maximized my capability for getting out there, and I need to do all of that. But hey, family, man. Family. Family can slow you down. My pleasure. My pleasure. So yeah, man, with that, I think I'm just going to get up out of here and start setting up for the next stream. When I do that, should be tomorrow. And look at breaking a little bit of this down today. There's some points that I've already feel like I can peg and shorten up some of the videos. And I'm glad I was able to help you, and hopefully I'll be able to help other people, because the main thing for me is to have what I have inside go out to other people. Ain't no point in me going to the grave with what I got. I've got tons of undocumented skills, but I've got some priceless situations because I have been through so much out here. I can pretty much cater it to anybody's needs. It might not be exactly what they're about to go through, but I can put in on it. I can put something on it. If you got an idea, I can generally put something on it and bring some sensibility to what you've got going. Thanks, Free. So yeah. Subscribe to Friedman Media. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Just know that today was an interesting day. Everybody's up in arms with Don Lemon getting fired and Tucker Carlson getting fired. Those two will have podcasts. Those two will be in the same space and will come in with larger platforms, obviously. Absolutely. But they got wiped out of mainstream media because of where mainstream media is and where mainstream media is going. So it's all coming to the intrawebs. But they're going to tell the same stories the same way when they get on their podcast. With their following, they'll be fine. They'll get endorsements. They'll get people who will sponsor them. But if they weren't liked on mainstream media, how long would they be able to rock with people on the intrawebs? That's not up to me to figure out, nor do I care. What I care about the most is people who are in this thing and they're doing good business and they become entrepreneurs. They become pillars of our society and they can reach out and help folks up and build their companies to where larger corporations will help them up. We've got to be there with that. We can't let what's been going on, what's being said around us affect us. We got to keep moving ahead, y'all. Because I know some people are stutter stepping right now. I get it. And I might be the beneficiary of somebody's stutter step within the next couple of months. I see it. I already see a couple of people stutter stepping, and that's going to be detrimental for some people. Because I'm not looking to step on anybody's toes, but I swear if your toes ain't moving, don't blame me if I step on your feet. It's not intentional, but it kind of is. Y'all be good. We'll talk soon. One love.
You know, this revolution is filled with so many ironies, really. First, you tell us that it is manly to keep your word, right? If you are a man, you keep your word. And now all of the black people in this country are demanding, and even the black people in the whole world are demanding, is that you keep your word. You told us we were free. Well, then show us that we're free. You told us that there is justice, equality for all in this country. Well, then stick to your word and let us see the justice and equality for all. Or else admit to us that you're not a man, you're a worm, you're afraid of us, you're afraid to give us equal stand. You're afraid that if you give us equal ground, that we will match you and we will override you.